Coming out of the nightmare abyss of the piney woods of East Texas, the Random Horror Show, the best in commentary and reviews in horror, sci-fi, fantasy, cult classics, and the obscure from film, television shows, and literature. Join our horror hostess, Keisha Lacey, as she is scary, but random, horrific, but funny. Last but not least, she will chill you to the bone.
Hey everybody, this is Keisha Lacey with a Random Horror Show, coming straight up out of these crazy, spooky, macabre, and murderous, like nightmarish hell of the Piney Woods, better known as East Texas. And thank you all for joining me with this wonderful horror chat. And I have a special guest chopping it off, but he's not losing his head or getting his eyeball like knocked out or losing his fingers with yours truly, the wonderful actor. And he's been in so many like films like Vic Effects, which is coming up, Evil Lurks, and so many, even like Peppermaster, Doktor Death, the one and only Bill D. Russell. Hello, Bill.
Uh,
How you doing?
I'm very good and very happy to be here and love your beautiful smiling face.
Thank you.
Can't ask for better on a Sunday, especially both my football teams won. Um, so that was great, but then I get to top it off by talking to you. So that's like a dozen cherries on the top of the Sunday.
Thank you. I appreciate that compliment. And who is your favorite football team?
I was born and grew up in Wisconsin, so I will always be a Packer backer. And they just barely beat the Chicago Bears today. So of course that's a rivalry that goes way back.
Wow, yeah, I remember all that. I'm not, I'm from Texas,
Right.
it's Cowboys like
Okay.
state, but and Texans too. But I don't follow football. But I get it. I get the whole football thing. But yeah, I do remember the whole back in the 80s of like the Bears and the Packers and
Oh yeah.
go Bears.
Right. That whole
I remember-
that Super Bowl shuffle. Uh, do you remember that? You can't be
I
old
still,
enough to remember that, but you've are you aware of it at least?
yes,
That
I
was like
am
that was
aware of
like the
that.
big deal when the Bears were in the Super Bowl,
The Bears, the Bears.
right?
Yeah, what's his name? Patrick Mahone is actually from East Texas. He's
I'm aware of that. Yeah,
from
he's
yeah,
amazing.
he's from a town called White House. And I'm about 25 minutes away from White House.
Oh, okay.
And his family actually live in the next community where I live at. So his mother is a Martin, and I went to school with a lot of Martins, and so it's
Ah,
like I was like, what? I was like, that's really fascinating right there. You have a good old East Texas boy, playing it for the Kansas City Chiefs. So
yeah,
I thought that
yeah,
was very amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and Bill, introduce yourself to my audience, my peeps, my ghouls, my ghostesses, and my like creepy crawly like haters out there.
Right.
Introduce
All
yourself.
all of the above. Hi, I'm Bill D. Russell. I've been involved in theater and on camera acting off and on for well the first theater I did in Chicago, so outside of like high school and college, I was in a Second City children's show, and that was in 1983. So
Mhm.
what's that, 40 years? I hate to admit it.
Oh, hold on. I was in kindergarten in
Yeah,
1983.
yeah. So that's how long I've and that was like sketch comedy. So I did improv and
Mhm,
sketch comedy in Chicago for several years. Then got into doing commercial work in the '90s. Uh, the one people remember me for is I did a commercial for Blockbuster Video. Their The Perfect Store, which is sort of their iconic commercial. It was featured in the Last Blockbuster documentary. It shows up
mhm,
in the weirdest of places. There's recently a documentary about Gary Coleman came out, and one of the people who figures into his story used to work at a video store, so they show part of the commercial in this movie. Has nothing to do with Gary Coleman, but it's like, oh my god, it's just you never know where it shows up.
wow. I do remember the Blockbuster commercials, and I do remember that commercial. So
Yeah, I play. There's
when
like a family, and then the Blockbuster store comes up around them, and I'm the dad.
yes,
I'm the
I
dad with the
remember
family.
that.
Yeah,
It's like I'm talking to the Blockbuster guy.
right.
That is freaking awesome right there. So you did mention Second City Improv Olympics that you started at sketch comedy, and everybody who is not just a big nerd about Second City, this is like where you have the greats that come from started Saturday Night Live.
Hmm.
And I was just reading up on you and stuff. I was like, what? Second City, you did like sketch and improv? I mean, that's
I
so
was
wild, but I
never
love
I was never part of what they call their main stage cast.
it. Hmm.
But I've done various shows at the theater. Uh,
But it's still cool
Going
though.
back to like the mid '90s when it was just the main stage, and the ETC space was, I don't know if you read about that, was sort of like they decided they wanted to do shows that weren't geared toward tourists,
Hmm.
do things that were more intelligent. So they kind of started this offshoot called Second City ETC,
Hmm.
and that was sort of like behind the main theater.
Hmm.
So that's where I started doing some shows back in, God, like the '93, I think, was the first show I did there.
Hmm. Okay, okay. And you also mentioned you had theater experience also. So I did do the theater thing back in college because I was like a band nerd. And theater really like opened my mind up to a lot of things. And also I was like, wow, this is like really hard because I had to learn how to pronounce like with the phonetics of a lot of the dialogue to building sets, theater makeup, which I was really good at is theater makeup. So like
I
you
bet
do
you
have
were.
like I know I like made my first beard and also did, which opened me up to like do one project. I had to, we had to make something. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go like Ted, like Tom Savini with this. I'm gonna make me a scar to
Yeah,
have like a
there you go.
blood and everything.
Right.
I like wore that like all day long and went to work with that. I was like, I'm going to like impress the shit out of everybody. Like, look what I can do. But like with theater, it does like give you that open main stage to be whatever character that you play, plus having, people just think like, oh, you're just on stage. There's like so much with it. And
Mhm.
how would you like tell people about like how, the whole mechanism, the whole schematics, the foundation of like acting and things like that? Because you've been in movies, you've been in a
Wow,
commercial,
yes,
you've
and
been in a
so I
lot of
know the
stuff.
answer to that question. You make it sound like I'm the guru of theater. Um, Honestly, I'd say that's. I mean, if you're talking about the fundamentals of acting, that
Mm-hmm.
can be different for every person.
Well,
Um, Stanislavski's method is what everybody thinks of, and they have certain preconceived notions about. But
Mm-hmm.
Stanislavski was very much about taking from all these different theater experiences, literally around the world, from
Mm-hmm.
Greek and from French, from Chinese, uh, and basically said, choose what works for you, because it's not going to be the same for every individual. So that's part of
Exactly.
like what getting experience and studying can do. Is expose you to those other things. Other people don't have to do anything. I mean, acting is just being yourself under imaginary circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not easy for some. When you think I'm acting, you go into this different mode of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
like where you're pretending.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to come across that way, and it will work for some things. Sketch
Mm-hmm.
comedy and sitcoms are fine, but for realistic acting, and this is something that it took me a while to do, is to learn how to shed that I'm pretending and
Mm-hmm.
let it really just be me.
Okay.
So when I stopped pretending, that's when I moved from comedy uh, to just being me in horror.
Yes, and I'm gonna get to that right there. So, what was that switch to horror? Because I seen
Before
you.
we move too far away from the talk about improv and theater, I just wanted
Uh-huh.
to interject, because this is something that I've been noticing over the last several years,
Mm-hmm.
is the impact of the horror genre on
Mm-hmm.
improv and theater. There's a lot of shows. Otherworld Theater in Chicago does a pre-written show. The Annoyance Theater has been doing something called Splatter Theater since actually when because that grew out of the original Improv Olympics, so
Mm-hmm.
that would have been the late '80s, and
Okay.
it's evolved over the years. But every year they do this show that's developed through improvisation called Splatter Theater. There's a group in Los Angeles called Stage Fright Theater. That again does horror related things. It's just impressive to me to see how much improv and theater has moved into that realm.
Yeah.
So for people who are like, oh, I don't want to hear about comedy, just there is a large horror impact on improv and theater right now, and
Yeah.
it's fun because there are a lot of troops that will do improvised horror movies, so the audience gets to suggest what's going to happen, and they create that on stage, and it's pretty impressive.
Oh, that is pretty impressive
Yeah.
right there. But like, what was your switch to horror? And also, when I watched you in Chris Shern film Evil Lurks,
Hmm.
your character, I was about to come through the screen and scratch your eyeballs out. I was like, what is wrong with this man being this goofy, nosy ass neighbor?
Right.
And what he doing with this child? Why are you like that? Because I was about to strangle your character. And I told
Good.
Chris whenever he did his character, I told Chris, I was like, I was gonna whoop your ass. And I love he had a good laugh over that. But I love like how you know besides him of how much that when y'all played your part in Evil Lurks that I had so much of an emotional reaction because I'm paying attention to not only his character being the shush man and his crazy
Right.
stuff like I said I just
Right.
want to box you, and then you come in and I'm like I'm ready to bust him up too. But like tell me how you got into that role of that neighbor because That
I
neighbor was creepy. You started off like, okay, he's a cool neighbor, and then you have this young lady, this young teenage girl, and her mom is, uh pretend, she's not crazy, but she's
right,
been locked up there with the adoptive parents. There's some static there. There's some conflict there with the
right.
adoptive parents and this young lady. So you come in, and I'm just like, okay, let's see what's going to happen. How did you prepare for that role?
I just I grew up as an awkward person. So I just kind of channeled that awkwardness of I don't really know how to talk to a girl. And at my age, I
Mhm.
still don't know how to talk to a teenage neighbor that I shouldn't have any interest in. Um,
Exactly.
and that was what Chris has said that he liked is everybody else who auditioned for it was, well, kind of like uh, a stereotypical creep, and I'm the one who brought in something a little different.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, more subtle, creepy things. Like at one, I don't know if you catch it, but when I'm the first time I'm talking to her in her yard, um, I'm looking at her and I lick my lips.
Yeah, I seen that. I seen that. I seen that shit, and
I
I
was
was
like,
like,
that can't be anything creepier than if I do that.
I had
And I
my eye
remember
with that.
when we were screening the film, there was someone
Hmm.
sitting in the audience behind me, and I heard her go, "Oh no, that girl's only 13. You leave her alone." And I turned around and I said, that's me. And she goes, "Oh, I know." Like, I better get out of here. She's going to hold me responsible for that.
And you played a damn good character
Thank you.
in the
Thank
film.
you.
You did, and your character was just that lip. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna bust him upside his head. You know, I mean, and I love
That is
how
such a compliment. That is such a
it
compliment.
it was you I was it was like that mode, that vibe, that everything right there, because that interaction with you and the young girl, you just like took that whole scene and you just made it so uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, even though she was not paying attention and she was telling you to go somewhere. But but like when you licked your lips, she didn't even notice you did that.
Right.
And to me, like, as thinking about me as a teenage girl, and some older neighbor come trying to talk to me after I had a big old blowout powwow with my adopted parents, and I would be telling you to get the hell away, but I actually be looking at you crazy and stuff, be like, you
Right.
need to go on somewhere. I would have been noticing you, and I would have told you to get the hell on out.
Yeah.
Like, leave me alone. But then, it got real crazy when she came over to the house. If anybody has not watched Evil Lurks, please go see it. It's on Tubi. So they're having a campaign where you can help out with Vic Effects and stuff. Do get the DVD. It's wonderful. I got it. It's $25. It helps like out with everything with Vic Effects. And like, y'all go
Yeah.
see Vic Effects. I mean, not Vic Effects. I'm sorry. Evil Lurks. It's really great. It's a
Yeah,
really good.
anyone watching who doesn't know, Vic Effects is the next film being
That's
made
it.
by Chris Shern of Evil
I'm
Lurks.
still
And
stuck on that. I'm still stuck on Vic Effects, but let's talk about Vic Effects anyways, because I keep
yes,
popping in to mention it. So, like, what character are you playing in Vic Effects?
I play a character named Milo Kemp, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a notorious horror movie director, like maybe Wes Craven or John Carpenter, something along
Mm-hmm.
that line. Um, and one of the things that stands out about my films are the sound effects
Mm-hmm.
that are designed not only to make the audience uncomfortable, but even to the point of like Pavlovian condition. We're going to make you so scared every time an elevator bell rings that for the rest of your life you will be scared every time an elevator, that sort of thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and my longtime sound effects person, who's called a Foley artist
Mm-hmm.
in the filmmaking business, has passed away. So I approach a young woman who's up and coming and making a name for herself as a sound effects artist, and I ask her to complete this film for me. And as the movie progresses, she actually works on several films. So you see small portions of these different films, and they're all different genres, from slasher to folk horror. And then at some point, reality and the fantasy that she's creating begins to blur.
Ooh.
So I call it a horror movie about the making of horror movies for the people who love horror movies. Because
That's a good
it's
way.
going to, not only is it going to cover different genres, but then it in itself it's a horror movie. And a lot of the scenes, I love what Chris has done. A lot of the scenes are homages to other films. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot either inspired by or almost, a direct, not duplicate, but you can definitely say, "Oh, I know what that is based on," which I love. I just um, he's really a filmmaker, because he understands everything, the cinematography, and um, it's not just point the camera and shoot and move on to the next scene.
Right. I
Not
had Dan.
not that
Yeah.
that's bad. Some people, that's their filmmaking, and if you enjoy that, that's fine. I really like this one.
Shoot. Now I had Chris and Dan on last
Hmm.
month, and we talked about the cinematography, but also when Chris did Evil Lurks, he did it on $1,000 budget. And I said, I was really impressed of what you can do with that $1,000 budget for Evil Lurks. Now this one, with Vic Effects, it's a bigger budget,
Yeah.
and I know, and I, watched him on Instagram, of like the whole process that he's doing. He's, making, all of these props. I did just him back in March. He was doing, looking up locations. There's a lot to it that he is doing, and I'm so glad that Dan, Michael Jesrick, and the other, and others, and even you are like literally like a big, huge like family with this production of Vic Effects, and he's looking forward to literally put this in a theater, to show, to the screen and stuff. And I was like, I support that wholeheartedly because
Oh,
I
we're
see his
definitely going
vision.
to have it screened some places.
Yeah, I see his vision and stuff, and I seen the vision with Evil Lurks, and then this one right here. I was like, yes, like I want so much success with this with this film, because I want to, because I'm going to watch it no matter what. So like, you working with like all of the gang as a family, like how for y'all being on the set and things like that, like how's the camaraderie with everyone, since you are one of the characters, one of the main characters of
I've
this film.
Yeah, I've gotten along with pretty much everyone. Um, we all love what we're doing.
Hmm.
Certainly for Evil Lurks, we didn't do it for the money.
Right.
It was the chance to be part of a project that we knew would look good and would make us look good. Uh,
Hmm.
but that's where you kind of develop. It's really difficult to work on a film and not have that feeling by the time you're done of being a family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's oftentimes hard if you've been on a film for a period of time. You get to that end, and it's like, oh my god, we have to stay in touch. And of course, no one does, but you develop that feeling. It feels like, oh, how can I live without these people? Because you're working on the same thing every day. You're all working toward the same goal. You're eating
Mm-hmm.
together, you know. So yeah, we developed that sort of bond. So myself, Chris Shern, Amanda Winston worked on Evil Lurks, as well as is going to be in Vic Effects. So
Mm-hmm.
I love it because you get to know how the other people work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's every time you work on a film together,
Mm-hmm.
you become more and more comfortable, like you're really interacting and not just saying lines at each other. You really do develop a personal bond. Um, and I know if I do one thing, uh, I know how Amanda probably will react to that, and
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. She knows how to maybe get something out of me. So that's the thing that works well. And working with someone like Chris, who is writing and directing as well as performing in the movie. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he likes me, so as he's making further projects, he writes roles for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't ask for more than that.
That that's very sweet because it he made it like much comfortable for you because he wrote a role for you. And
Right.
I feel that is like the most enduring and most, you know, uh, amazing feeling because you're not just, oh, I gotta like hold like audition for this role. He's like, no, I have you in mind, Bill.
Yeah, oh
This
yeah,
is for you.
it's a complete difference, in
Hmm.
approaching a role.
That is
And
awesome.
I've
Like,
gotten I say that, I was going to say, I've gotten so many roles where I got the role because the first choice somehow didn't work out, and that includes Evil Lurks.
hmm
The original person playing, I forget what happened, he had to drop out, and that's when I got cast as Rich. So yes, to have it be the other way around, where it's not, you know I'm not their second choice. I was the one they're writing the role for. That's wonderful.
it is. It's like me. Okay, that's how you feel. You're like, okay, then. Oh wow. I mean that shoe. I'll be sitting on cloud 10, because of that. I mean,
Right. Oh
they
yeah.
literally had you in mind. I mean,
And
shit, you impressed him like an evil works. I mean, you impressed me.
thank you. Well, and Chris and I have been talking about. I mean, basically, he's creating or wants to create a multiverse
Mm-hmm.
of each film. Really, somehow ties into the other one. So future projects that we're going to be working on. One is going to reprise my character as Milo Kemp.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, uh, I guess, basically an anthology, but posed as a retrospective of Milo Kemp's films, and it will be the movies that were being made in Vic Effects, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and will be hosted by someone we're thinking about, Jessup Flux. So that's going to be a whole nother project related to Vic Effects, but separate.
Right.
And then we're also looking at a project that is totally separate from Vic Effects called
Mm-hmm.
Hug My Bones. I don't know if Chris talked to you about that when he was here. Uh,
Mm-mm.
it's and he's casting me as the lead in the picture. I I'm a big businessman or whatever, but I have a drug addiction and I bottom out and I have to go into rehab. And my therapist assigns me to go to cuddle party therapy. If you know what that is,
Mm-hmm.
do you? You can't get much creepier, I don't think, than cuddle parties. And while there, I get possessed by demons or something. So
Not somebody, not a demon messing up the cuddle parties. No, no. I like that. I like that. I like that.
I know the first time Chris told me, I was like, "Oh my god, what a perfect thing to set an uncomfortable movie in is a cuddle party."
Yeah, because I like hugs too, but then I mean, I heard of cuddle parties. There's people that told me they went to cuddle parties, and I was like, it's just nothing but a whole bunch of y'all cuddling with each other. Yep, I was like, that
Yeah,
sounds
it's
cute.
it's it's non-sexual.
It is. It's non-sexual. I was like, that's cute and everything, but I was just like, I gotta know them for like maybe like a couple of times for me to just like open up and just like
Yeah,
cuddle,
yeah,
because I used to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I was a little bit like, that's in my personal space,
right.
but it's non-sexual, and I don't know why people think like you're getting I was like, no, no, not a lot of things is sexual, it's
Right.
non-sexual. But it's more of me if I was like at a cuddle party, it's more of me. I have to get used to somebody that's a stranger in my personal
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. And that's
Yes.
that's that's what's going to be fun about the movie is my character, is definitely not uh, open to cuddling like that. He's a
Mm-hmm.
part of the rehab is that I'm estranged from my daughter, who will be played again by Amanda Winston, and I'm probably the kind of person that everything is sexual to me. So this is a court ordered therapy. I have to do it. So for me to figure out how am I going to make myself do this and not be overly awkward about it.
Oh, this is going to
And
be
I don't know I'm
interesting.
going to get possessed by a demon.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. This is going to
It
be
is. It's
very, very interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be a lot of fun to play. And hopefully a
Oh,
lot of
God.
fun to watch when we're done.
It really is. I can just see your character like, uh, ooh.
Right?
It's like, yeah, I just heard you. Baseball bat.
Right?
Oh my god.
The,
So, next
I'd be
question
I'd
I
be
got
the
for
kind of guy that would have a hard time cuddling and not having physical
physical.
reactions
Yeah,
to it,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I could
My
just see
love
your
language
character.
is touch.
I could just see your character just like, just can you just touch it, just blow on it for me, just, just, just little pee pee touch, just do a little pee pee touch. Just okay, I'm good, I'm good.
I'm glad you went there. Thank you.
But my next question is what is, since you made that big wonderful switch to our side of horror, what is horror to you? What does horror mean to you?
That is a really good question. Uh, I, grew up on Hammer and Universal. Um, on watching on TV on the late night show, and this was, of course, before there was cable TV or any kind of recording devices. You just, if you caught a movie on TV, you were lucky. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have a theater close by. So
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, a lot of the local, well, there weren't that many local stations, but they tended at back in my day, after the news, there was the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and that was pretty much it. No other networks had programming, so they showed old movies, and fortunately, they showed a lot of movies that were, like I said, the Hammer and Universal type of thing. So I grew up on monsters. Uh, so it took me a while to adjust to the idea of slashers because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's so you just got somebody walking around stabbing people. Yeah, it took. I had a hard time classifying that with horror. And that being said, I saw Halloween in the theater during its initial run in Chicago, and I loved it. But it was the ones more like Friday the 13th that at the time I couldn't get into those.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, like I saw I Spit on Your Grave again
Uh-huh.
in the theater during its initial run in, I think that was 1979.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a story to it, such as it is. It's a revenge film.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't necessarily lump that in with the others. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many like different subgenres of horror. And
yeah, and I
you
don't
know,
necessarily have a favorite.
right.
Although I love ones that are more psychological.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it depends on my mood. Sometimes, like, yeah, I really just kind of want to have it on in the background, so I want there to be a lot of action. Every time I glance over, I want there to be blood spewing or naked bodies or something, or naked bodies spewing blood.
Well, well, you know, you said Universal monster movies. So which one is your favorite out of the Universal monster movies? Back,
Oh,
one is your favorite?
Dracula by far. Dracula.
Dracula.
Yeah.
Uh,
The first time I ever did
mine.
any kind of makeup for Halloween, when I was in high
Uh-huh.
school, that's what I did, and I used the famous Monsters of the Filmland magazine had come out with a special issue on makeup special effects. So I talked my English teacher, who was also the drama coach, into using that and doing the makeup for me. So I looked pretty good.
Okay. Mine is Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh God.
And and another one that took me like by surprise that I love is the Invisible Man.
Mm,
And he's not supernatural, he is human,
right. That is a,
nihilistic, destructive, all of that.
yeah, I can definitely see that. And
Oh, but
that's
oh,
not a character that immediately comes to my mind. And it
mm-hmm,
should, because you're absolutely correct about it.
mm-hmm. Even though he, because I mean, because he wasn't like a. I mean, I've never seen the original Invisible Man, and I watched it, and I immediately fell in love with him, just the same as I fell in love with Frankenstein.
Right.
Frankenstein, he's always going to be that number one OG for me. But it's
Right.
just the Invisible Man. He was such a menace. He was so good. And we have like Bela Lugosi, uh, all the actors that we could think of, Lon Chaney Jr., we
Mhm.
can like just pop off, but nobody really just give like flowers to like Claude Rains for playing the Invisible Man.
Right.
And he did a fabulous job. I mean, he was so menacing. I was eating it up. I was eating it up and cackling with him.
Right.
And there was nothing supernatural about it. It was
Mm-mm.
science,
Mhm. Yeah.
which But then if you just dig deeper, was he already a monster inside and just had to, you know,
Right.
pull that out, because when he came invisible, oh, it's like so many nuances and layers with that character, and of course it's written by H.G. Wells too. Was it
Right.
H.G. Wells? Yeah, H.G. Wells. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or
And
Orson Welles.
I love
It was
that
somebody.
you think that of it. That makes me so happy that you have that insight to it and it has that effect on you. Because those
Oh,
movies is like people forget they know they exist, but nobody actually watches them, let alone appreciates them. So
I appreciate the Invisible Man. I was like, we got to show some love to this. We got to show some love to him.
absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
he can be in the room with you and you don't even know. I mean, you can see like, Dracula comes in like a mist, and he comes at
Right.
night. I'm gonna have to get the blood.
Mhm.
All of that. All these creatures that we see, but we never see the Invisible Man, and you
Uh-uh.
never know when he's gonna strike, and that's scary.
The worst evil is unseen.
It really is, and he be lurking. So I got some questions for you. This is like my trivia round of,
Fire away.
what I do, because it's random, it's silly, but some of it is really good. If you don't know, it's not like you're gonna win any points or anything else like that. But hey, just thank you for participating with
You'll be
me.
surprised by my ignorance.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and fire away. All right. First question. When was the Blockbuster business established? What year was the Blockbuster business established?
What year? Boy, that was not at all the question I was expecting. Um, Give me a moment. Uh, 1983.
Actually, 1985.
Ah, I was
That's all right. Shoot. It's okay.
I was
We
guessing.
okay. All right. All right.
I wasn't really that far. I was only 2 years off.
You was just 2 years away, off. That's okay.
Mm.
That's okay. So, second question and everything. This is gonna be horror, but you're gonna have to name the actor.
Okay.
Okay. In the film by Brian De Palma, 1976 Carrie, the main character in this film, what is her name and where is she from?
It's one of those I have the name on the tip of my tongue and I can't. Sissy Spacek,
All
who
right.
is from uh, Bedford, Massachusetts.
Guess again.
Oh, I have to guess again. Uh, she's from Texas.
Okay. But where in Texas? It don't
Uh,
have to be the city.
Dallas.
I'll give you a hint. Your host is actually from the area she's
Yeah,
from.
I had a
And I
feeling that was the case, and now I'm trying to remember what that was.
and I mentioned
I
it
figured that's
earlier.
where you were going. I don't remember where you said it was. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, it's okay. She is from East Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, she's from East Texas. Quitman, Texas is where she's from.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, East
So
Texas, that I did remember. I just couldn't remember the towns, the name of the towns.
it didn't matter like the town, but I was like, you know what? Let me see if he like paid attention.
I
Let me
did
see if
remember East Texas.
yeah, she's from East Texas. She's from Quitman, Texas. I'm from Henderson, Texas, so I'm an hour and a half away from where she was born and raised. So
Ah,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, I was really excited. I watched Carrie. I loved Carrie when I was 14 years old, and of course, I like read a lot of Stephen King books. And when I found out that she's from here in Quitman, I was like, well, that's super cool. I'm like, she got the hell up on out of here. She packed her bags and like, I'm finna go.
Yeah.
I'm tired of looking at these pine trees and getting allergies. And she's also a songwriter and a singer, and she's
Yeah.
very talented.
She's
She
extremely
really is. She's
talented.
really
Yeah.
talented. Pretty talented. All right. So, third one. I don't know. You may not get it, but I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna be a little bit more easy here with this one. So,
I appreciate that.
these are actually all um horror, but there's also some sci-fi with it. With three of these films, and it stars Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in them. All three of these movies when they came out. So it's called The Cornetto. Can you name the three films that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost all starred in?
Shaun of the Dead.
There you go.
Um. Hmm. I'm blanking on the titles.
I'll give you.
It's like
I'll
I
let
can see the posters. I'm like, God damn it.
There's another one. They were police officers, and they was in a small town.
Oh. See, I know the movie you're talking about, and for the life of me, I can't think of the title.
Punch that shit. I
Oh.
love that line. Punch that shit.
Right.
um, they kept calling him Sergeant Angle instead of Sergeant Angel.
Right. I cannot remember the title.
Hot Fuzz.
Now I remember the title.
And there's another one after Hot Fuzz. It's a
Was that the one with the little
friends.
alien?
No, it's not Paul.
Oh,
This
that's
is
yeah.
another
Okay,
friend.
that's the one I was thinking maybe.
Okay.
Um,
There's another one. To go back to
yeah,
their hometown for a night of drinking at the pub, but they found out their town was taken over by robots, aliens, no bots.
yeah. Again, I remember the film.
The world's end.
What?
The world's end.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so it's called and it's also called the Cornetto because each movie it has the Cornetto ice cream cone.
Oh,
Sean, yeah, it's called the Cornetto.
I
All
didn't
three
know
of them.
that.
Yeah, it's called the
Interesting.
Cornetto. It's called Sean when he goes into the store after everything goes
Right.
haywire and everything. Everybody's a zombie. He goes and eats a cornetto. You also see Nick Frost's character eat a cornetto. Whenever in Hot Fuzz, guess what? Nick's character is eating a cornetto.
Another.
Uh, then in the last movie, which is the completion of it, Nick Frost's character, he sees the cornetto paper flying through after everything blows up, and he's like, oh, he's like, oh my god, there's a cornetto. Oh, but he doesn't eat one because everything is destroyed and there's no more cornettos. So It's called The Cornetto. So
Yeah.
I own all three of those movies. Those are some great movies though.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen the last one like all the way through. I need to do that.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like that very hoary, quiet sci-fi,
Right.
with it. It's a trip. It really is. It has a lot of heart with it, but I love how Nick Frost's character, he's going through a divorce. He's like, I just punched my wedding ring out of a woman's tummy. Trying to say,
Right.
everything is going haywire. It became like a dystopian, but it has like a lot of funny moments in the film. It's a trip. I mean, you'll get a big laugh out of it. You get a little bit, you a bit scare out of it too. Makes
Yeah.
you think. You're like, oh my god, an alien invasion finally taking over. You'll love it. You'll love
Cool. Excellent.
it. So, like, Bill,
Yeah.
is there anything else, like, other than you working on Vic Effects? Is there any other different projects or anything that you're doing that's new or coming up or
Well, a
anything
few
that
things
you
that
just
should be
have to
coming
admit it?
are going to be coming out. One is an anthology called Six Pack of Terror, and I'm in
Ooh.
one of the segments called Soul Sucker. So we're hoping that that's ready to start streaming before the end of the year, but we don't have a definite date yet. Um, they're doing post production on a film called Field of Screams
Mhm.
that I worked on in Colorado. We shot back in May, uh,
Mhm.
and I play like an Appalachian witch who has uh, created a living scarecrow, sort of to be my companion on. Uh, Otherwise, I live alone on this ranch, and but then I die, and what happens when the scarecrow's master is no longer around? Uh, so that's that film should be coming out soon. And then I have a few things lined up to shoot in next year.
Hey, look at you. You're just busy, 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 busy body. Love
Brian,
it. Love it. So, which is, if you can tell me, what is your favorite horror film? You don't have to. I know there's like some people like I don't know, but just pick one. Which one is your go-to whenever you
I have
sit
to
down
say
and relax
the
for a
original
movie?
Halloween.
78, John Carpenter.
Yeah.
I feel that 78 was a really great time for a lot of good stuff. I mean, you had Halloween that came out,
Mhm.
um, Dawn of the Dead.
Mhm.
I was born in 78. There was like some really good bangers of like horror films when I was in that wonderful time of year.
Right.
And I mean, I met Tom Savini, and I was gobsmacked. I couldn't even
How could you
talk. I
not
couldn't
be?
even I mean, I couldn't even form words. The only thing I said to him was, "Wow, my heart is beating so fast." He's like, "Well, that means you're alive." I mean, he's just so soft, and
Yeah.
I couldn't
Oh,
do nothing but laugh. Like, you're alive.
that's a very cool story.
It is, and he was really, really he was such a gentleman. He was so kind, and I was wanting to meet Tony Todd next year, and unfortunately, he passed
Yeah.
away, and he was one of my favorite actors that I
Mhm.
wanted to meet and chit chat and talk to. And there's just so many people that remember Tony Todd,
Oh,
not just from his
yeah.
work as Candyman. He did a lot of films. I mean, he did Wishmaster. He was such a good, like, awesome, like, character in Wishmaster. And then, of course, The Crow and
Oh,
that voice of his.
yeah.
And you couldn't like forget the remake of Night of the Living Dead. I mean, he I mean, we had none. I forgot his first name. I think it's Dunn, yeah, or something. Bill Dunn or something. No, Dwayne Jones. I'm sorry,
Ah,
Dwayne Jones, who did he was the OG, you know.
mm,
And when I seen the remake, and I'm thinking like this is gonna be terrible. No, it was not because it was like the spirit of of Dwayne Jones, like that Tony Todd says, I'm paying all my like love and respect of how Dwayne Jones did.
right,
And
right,
he really did go up there where he was at, and he did. And I was like, I never forgot how Tony Todd just like blew me away, just like Dwayne Jones did.
right. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Very
remember
cool.
when that original one came out, and um, there was even controversy about him being black, and what were
Mm-hmm.
the connotations of him being to the end and still getting killed. And I just remember it was. I mean, I was relatively young at the time, but I definitely remember it being, you know, in the media.
It I didn't even know that when I read all about, George Romeo, and that was made in the 60s,
Yeah.
civil rights
Mm-hmm.
going on. And 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 it just took me back to memories of finding this mysterious VHS tape, at my grandmother and grandfather's house, popped it in, boom, Night of the Living Dead. They're going to get you, Barbara. And then when you see the main character, who is a black man,
Right.
and you're and in my mind when I watched it, that just blew me away for something. And I was like, wait a minute, is this the same film that I'm watching that is back in the 60s, that they had a black man as the main protagonist, the hero, the character, everything? And in the end it was so sad because they shot him. And
Yeah.
I was appalled, and I was really sad because during that time it was, I wasn't thought of.
Right.
But when you see that, as younger, and you're like, who made this movie, who did this,
Right.
who literally said, you know what, I'm gonna be forward with this. Kind of like how Gene Roddenberry, when he put Star Trek.
Oh
You
yeah,
understand?
absolutely.
So when I watched it, I was like, just yes, yes, yes. And then at the end, but it just has like so many layers. Even though there's like people, zombies eating bugs off of the trees, and
Right.
and all of that. He was literally trying to make sure that everybody in the house, including Barbara, he slapped the crap out of Barbara to get it together, girl.
Yep.
I was like, "Ooh, you look rough," but okay, then, But it was just a messed up situation for everybody, and even though the survivors that was in there, they was trying to like, you don't tell me what to do.
Right.
And he's basically like saying, look, I have saved y'all lives, and you need somebody that is a strong leader to make sure that everybody is safe and we can make
Right.
it out of here alive. They just didn't want to listen to him. And it's sad.
Yeah.
It took a horror movie to show that. And it's a classic.
Yeah.
That took a lot of balls for George Romeo to do that too.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I remember how controversial it was when it came out. Even Reader's Digest. I remember reading an article in
Hmm.
Reader's Digest of all places that was addressing that. What are the racial implications of this
Yeah.
movie?
I looked at it as where, hey, this is like a situation that is beyond our control.
Right.
We need to set whatever, how your punk ass feelings aside, because we're trying to survive.
Yep.
That was the whole main thing. But humans just be humaning.
Yes. I like that.
Humans just be humaning.
Humans be humaning.
I was like, I just like, I don't understand y'all, but okay. I was like, I'm human too, but I think I'm part Vulcan or something because I just like I don't understand.
Right.
I don't want. Where's the logic? I'm like, where's the logic? You're not being rational. You're being irrational. Where's the logic in this? No dismissed.
Right.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill, for just
Oh,
joining
my
me and
pleasure.
chopping it up
Thank you for
and
asking
not,
me to be a guest.
huh?
Thank you for asking me to be a guest.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I know it's been like what was like 10,000 years. I was like, all right, that's like let's go ahead and do this. And then some things happened, and I was like,
Right.
all
Yeah.
right, we got to get it together. We got to get it together. So yes, I love it. I love it that you just came on the Random Horror Show. You just made my Sunday, and it's
Oh, well,
raining
good.
out here, which we need the rain because
Well, good. Good for
it's
you.
been hot. It was hot in October. It was hot in October, so
Right.
we need the rain in November. So
Yeah, you do.
love that right there. So Bill, go ahead and take it away. You're welcome. Bill, go ahead and take it away of letting everybody where they can find you, your socials, and everything else.
Uh, I'm at sign Bill X Russell on Instagram and on TikTok. At sign Russell CHT on Facebook. Um, and I'm on. I have a link tree on my Instagram, so that would show you all my other socials. If you are so interested,
I already follow you.
right?
I do. I follow you and everything, and I love like how your Instagram page is like so nice and cool. And I was like, oh snap, you posted. I had to say something to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And
I very much have enjoyed talking to you.
thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Even though I'm just a little bit still a little sleepy, but hey, it
Hey,
was all worth it on this wonderful, wonderful Sunday.
yes,
And everybody, y'all can follow me on Instagram at the Random Horror Show, Facebook, YouTube, and I'm still barely trying to get the whole schematics of TikTok. I'm on TikTok also. And you can drop me a line at the random horror show at gmail.com. If you are an actor, you are a like filmmaker, music, whatever you do in the horror genre, doesn't even matter with science fiction, fantasy, whatever like that. If you just want to come and chop it up with yours truly looking all cute and pretty and everything else like I am, and I just keep it like real and keep it 100, you can contact me to for an interview. And thank you so much.
thank you.
You're welcome, Bill. I'm Keisha Lacey, and this is the Random Horror Show.